The Bible talks about religion and says that sometimes it can be a good thing, that there's a such thing as pure and undefiled religion. But if we're not careful, religion can be the very thing that stops us from coming to God. That and more in this episode coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by Logos. Learn more about the world's best Bible study software at logos.com/themove. We're reading today John chapter 6, verses 22 to 71.
And as always, the question is,
have you read it?
We're going to put it in the description below. We got 10 minutes on the clock, and we're going to start that in 3, 2, 1. So we left off with Jesus feeding them with this miraculous sign, but the overlooking by the crowd completely overlooked the miraculous power of what Jesus did and just received the filling of their bellies, and they were pursuing Jesus because they're like, I need my belly filled again. Right?
Jesus says, do not work for the food that perishes in verse 27, but for the food that endures to eternal life, which the Son of Man will give to you.
To be fair, if there's 5,000 people, right, several thousand people, and these are just men first, right? There are at least women.
Men are the ones that are counted,
right?
Yes.
Maybe they didn't see Jesus actually multiply the bread.
Maybe it's just like, oh, he's got a lot of bread.
Oh,
and
man, there's a lot of bread just showing up, right?
Maybe.
But then the other part is that would have made its way through the crowd.
Yeah, someone would have been like, how is this happening?
Yeah, that's true. Like,
what's going on?
Look. Right? And that's the thing, is that instead of looking, maybe this is the imagery, at least in my mind, instead of like, you're over here like, no, this bread's too good. I don't know. Right? And you're not looking, and Jesus is like, stop looking here and start looking here.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's interesting that in life we can have that very narrow perspective when God's trying to do something big.
Yeah. And so then what they ask, what must we do to do the works of God? Verse 28, Jesus says to them, well, this is the work of God, that you believe in him whom he has sent.
Yeah, and I love the contrast between the way that the people interpret living life with God.
Yeah.
It's about doing works. What do I got to do? What do I got to do? What do I got to do? Because they're used to doing things, right?
Yeah.
They're used to taking the lamb to the sanctuary, or they're used to doing this pilgrimage, or they're used to doing this or that, or whatever the case is, right? And Jesus is like, the only thing you actually ever got to do is believe.
Isn't this the distinction? Like, this is where that famous YouTube video that went viral with Jefferson Bethke.
Yeah, Jeff Bethke. Shout out to Jeff. Those of you guys, I'm sure everyone on the internet knows him by now, right?
Yeah, where it's like Jesus versus religion.
Yeah, why I hate religion but love Jesus.
Yeah, because right there you see it, right? Where it's like,
I got to do something. And he's like, no, just believe. It's not that hard.
Yeah. You know, the word religion, actually, from my understanding, the origin is, you do a quick etymology of it, and it comes from realigare, right? Which is at least the Latin, but it comes from Old French, and it really means to realign, right? Religion, realign, realigare, which is, and it's even the idea of like ligaments, a ligament, to religament something, to bind together yet again. And so religion seeks to bind two together, and that two is God
and ourselves
and humanity.
And even just the concept of religion, I think it's people interpret as like, what do I need to do to realign myself with God?
Exactly.
I sense and I perceive that there's this separation, that there's this misalignment. And so clearly if something's wrong, I got to do something to fix it, because God's so great and God's so perfect that if I screw up, then I got to come back and fix it. I got to realign myself.
Yeah. Where there's this, so how do I realign? I believe certain things. And then from that belief, there are certain behaviors that I have to do. There are certain rituals that I perform, and there are certain rites that I might participate in, right?
Right.
So religion is at minimum, in my estimation, there's belief, behaviors, rituals, and rites that I actively enter into, pursue, or perform in order to realign myself. And Jesus kind of tosses that all out the window. Right? Where his idea of belief is not just intellectual assent. It's not that, right? It's, all right, so you believe that you need to eat to have life,
Therefore you eat.
right? But I'm telling you, you need me to have life.
Yeah.
Therefore, you need to enter into intimacy and relationship and into covenant with, right?
How do they receive this? Because it doesn't seem like it's going very well so far.
Well, show us a sign.
You mean not the food that I gave you wasn't good enough?
Right?
Like
well,
that time that I healed the dude who's been on the ground for 38 years. You all heard about the water to wine thing. Like that's why you're here, right?
show us a sign. A sign. And then they qualify, which is good. Our fathers ate manna in the wilderness, as it is written. Look at that, as it is written. They're quoting back there.
There's this Bible verse, Jesus.
As it is written.
You know what's funny though? Even though and this is just the folly of science, right? They're quoting a story where their fathers got bread from heaven, right? Clear miracle. But we know the story. How many of those people that ate manna made it to the promised land?
Yeah, none.
None.
At least, not that first generation.
So like this idea of looking to the sign is like, this is just a failing strategy over and over.
Because you're missing what the sign is actually about yet again. And I mean, it's funny to sort of look at the limitations or to see how we can comically depict the response of the crowd to Jesus, but I'm as guilty. I'm as guilty of like, Jesus, give me a sign.
Yeah.
Right? And then when I see the sign, or something manifests in my life.
Like, oh God, you're so good. This is amazing.
But I pursue the benefit of the sign, and then I want more of that benefit at the expense.
To the extent that just a couple of weeks later, you're like, God, are you really there? Or not?
I'm in need again. I'm like, oh, I need you to show up. A sign is never enough, man. Like a sign is never enough. And Jesus, he of course, he's the creator. He is reality itself. From him, it all flows. He knows this, right? Truly, truly, I say to you, it's not Moses who gave you bread, but my Father who gives you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is he who comes down from heaven and gives life.
You see this contrast again between Moses and what God does. You see, the entire time they're focused on, Moses did this amazing thing. Therefore, Moses and the laws that Moses established and the rituals and the rites that Moses puts forward. This is who we are. This is what we build our identity on. And the entire time, you missed it. It's not Moses. It's the Father.
And we were talking off camera about how they asked for a sign. They had a sign.
Yeah.
Right? They start making reference to scripture as though it is written. And the culmination of the story of what the whole Old Testament is about is right in front of them.
Yeah.
So they have a sign, they have the culmination of the scriptures, and yet
Missed it.
And yet they miss it so much that Jesus just comes out and says it. I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me shall not hunger. Whoever believes in me shall not thirst. I say to you that you've seen me and yet you don't believe. All that the Father gives me will come to me. And whoever comes to me, I won't cast out. I mean,
it doesn't get much plainer.
It doesn't get much plainer than this.
It gets a little bit more plain. For
Right?
this is the will of Father, that everyone who looks on the Son and believes in him should have eternal life, and I will raise him up on the last day.
So now he's culminating the whole
he's like, y'all miss
historical
it.
project.
Let me just connect the dots for you real quick.
You know, I think I've read this in the past through a theological lens that is like, there's a symbolic meaning behind this. And now it's just reading through it. It's like, it couldn't get more plain. He couldn't be more plain. Like, no, right?
Yeah.
This is the will of my Father, that everyone who looks on the Son and believes in him should have eternal life. I will raise him up. Resurrection, water to wine, right?
Yeah.
Light out of darkness. And it's all coming to a head.
Bread that doesn't satisfy. Yeah.
And then their response, verse 41.
Grumble, 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 grumble.
So the Jews grumbled about him because he said, I am the bread that came down from heaven. They said, is not this Jesus, the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know? How does he now say I have come down from heaven? So they make him really common and familiar. I mean,
this is actually a decent question. I mean, if they saw the kid Jesus running around and now he says, I'm from heaven. It's like, no, you're from the street down where I live from.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'll have to absolutely give that to you, that in the natural, right? But yet they have the testimony of Moses, and then they have these miraculous signs. It just seems as though you would have to contend with the revelation of Jesus in the life. Right?
Yeah.
We'll get to that here in a sec. But I think that's a good place for us to really consider. Are we contending with the revelation of Jesus in our life? You know that there's places that you've wanted the belly to be full, but he wants you to be full of him. Mm-hmm. Are we contending with the revelation of Jesus in our life, or are we so familiar with Jesus at times that we're like, yeah, Jesus, cool, but I need you to show up in this way, right? And I know that from time to time, I need to check myself on that, because it's the person and not the other stuff.
Yeah.
We'll see you in the next 10.
Hey movers, I recently got to travel to the Logos headquarters and ended up recording several tutorials on how you and I can get more from our Bible study using Logos. To see the entire playlist of videos, visit logos.com/themove and get 10% off any Logos 8 product you want. logos.com/themove.